Hey, what's going on, guys? We're doing another set overview. This time for the new Love Live Nijigasaki School Idol Club All Stars set, because we're just getting really long set names now, I guess.
Yeah, it's way too long. There's too many.
Yeah. So I don't know why they just didn't call this All Stars, but yeah, I actually bought this set. You guys can check out the case opening link in the description below, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've built 3 decks so far, so we should be able to give you some decent insight compared to sets that I don't have the physical cards to play around with. The Salt Lily that was uploaded last week was another set that we got to play around with. It was a lot of fun. You've been having fun playing against this, haven't you?
It's all I've been playing against. You like Love Live.
That's fine. They've been different decks. You're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, the set's been really fun. There is some deficiencies, I would say, which we'll discuss at the end of the video, compared to other sets that have come out recently. But overall, it's been really fun. They did a decent design space. I think it's really interesting also how the set has been compared to other recently released sets. But enough talking. We're going to get right into it here with literally my least favorite card profile, a level 1 or higher on death Akatsuki. So when this card dies, you can discard a card to look it up to the top 4 cards, choose a level 1 or higher card, add it to hand. It also, on play, which makes it better in my brain, is on reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a music character, gains 2k power. So 3,500 beater into the opponent, which is nice. And what makes the Azusa part really good is this set has a lot of events in it. So you can grab those events with this card instead of just drawing them. Or there's a couple of other neat little tricks to grab them in the set, but this really does let you get that consistency.
This is your favorite card. We played one game before. He whiffed. And I was like, I've never seen you whiff before. He goes, what about right now? And then
you're like, oh, I never whiff on these. And I'm like, I always whiff on them. And then I proceed to just straight up whiff on it. Because for whatever reason, I just always whiff on these. I don't know why, but
good card.
That's why I don't like them. I mean, you need the free mill. I've learned that the free mill is needed. I've lost games because I don't have the free mill because I refuse to play these kind of cards. So usually I throw like 2 in my decks. That's kind of what I've learned is 2 is my sweet number. The fact that this is a beater though makes me like it.
It's a big girl.
Yeah, 35 busted. Next card is another great profile though.
It is you can pay 1, you ditch 1. Oh, you put it to the bottom of your clock. That's where this one gets a little spicy. And then when it's placed from hand to stage, if you do, you search your deck for a level 1 or lower. It's a drop surge.
Well, it's
drop. It's a drop Ricky.
Drop Ricky?
Yeah, it's my new word.
It's not even a profile.
It can be now.
No.
Oh.
So I think that there's a Kasumi that requires a card in clock to early play. I could be wrong with this because I really haven't delved into that profile. But what's nice is you're taking a card from your graveyard, so you're not potentially clocking a climax. It also can help you color fix, so you can put a blue card into your clock that you might need to level, or in my 8 choice deck, I'm really short on red cards, so it allows me to stuff a red card into clocks to level really easily. So, but these are just really good profiles, Ricky effects. It leads you to consistency for your level 1 combo, which, being able to go triple combo at level 1 just helps you at all stages of the game. And this type of profile helps you out. It is a vanilla. It doesn't have any other effects, which is unfortunate, but it does fulfill that role for you. So it's a very strong 0, particularly for the searching this early on. Typically, I shy away from these when they grab from graveyard. But, speaking about level 1 combos that you want to make sure you're consistent with, this, in my opinion, this Mifune is the best level 1 that the set has to offer. When any climax, so it doesn't even have to be the choice that she combos with, is placed in the climax zone, She gains plus X power until the end of your opponent's turn, where X is 500 times the number of your music characters. She counts herself, which I found really interesting. Usually that's like a Yuki from Sword Art effect, but it's usually on play from hand, not on climax play. So you can, if you don't have the choice, you can still buffer. Because if you have a full board, she'll be 6,500 cross turn, which is no small number, to be really honest. Like, that's kind of like where you want to be nowadays, cross turn, if you want any sort of defense. But the choice climax combo is at the beginning of the encore step. If the climax is in the climax zone, this is in the front row, and you have 2 or more music characters, because at this point we're kind of just stapling restrictors on. If the slot across from this is reversed or empty, then you can salvage a character. So you do have to reverse for this combo, but you're 7,500. And how often do I get this off?
A good amount of the time.
Depends if I have the choice, right?
Yeah, it's like, this girl's big, and she's big on your turn, so if your level 1 is like a 5/5 on its own, like if you don't have a climax, you're not getting through it, it's still a 65. And it's good against Saikano, it's really good against bounce backs, because you still get the salvage, even though if they bounce back.
You're playing 2K counters, so you're 8/5 on the defense.
That is also true. There's been many times where I can't get the reverse because it's an 8/5, because there's a 1-0 counter all the time.
Because you're just going to salvage it right off the combo. So I really like this card. I played it in 2 different decks so far, which we'll go over the decks at the end a little bit, just kind of how they're built. The deck lists will be in the description. Feel free to check those out. They haven't been optimized because I'm just really bad at updating Encore decks, but it should at least give you the shell. And so going into the next card is another choice. This one's the finisher.
So this is the choice finisher. It has a Musashi on it, which is when during the turn that it's played, plays from hand to stage. When damage is canceled, you mill the top card. You burn X, where X is the confirmative level of the card, +1. So, and then it's a restander. It's pay 1, ditch 2. You need the level 0 up in memory, but I mean most of the time that hasn't been a problem. And then it restands, which is always just very good. It's a very good profile. I mean, I've died just to the first part, not even the restand. It's I think it's really big and it hits hard.
The hardest part is the hand. I just built the 8 choice deck to test before this video because I think that there are cards in this set that provide for consistency with that deck, which makes it possibly the best deck. There's still one more I have to test to really figure out which one I want to stick with as the main meta deck. But the discarding of the 2 cards and getting the 2 0/0s in memory have been the hardest part. Now, you're playing 8 choice. You can trigger the choices, which will help you fill your hand. But consistently, you're getting maybe 2 of this off. The 0/0 can put itself into memory on play from hand, or you can pay 2 and send it when it's standing to memory. Look at top 3, add a card, and then just discard the rest, which is fine. But the paying 2 for that effect kind of feels bad. Usually I'm doing it after I've triggered a choice, and I'm just trying to pay out the choice. But the Musashi effect on this, and then restanding, will give you the ability to close out games, though. I think you've died a couple times.
I can't. There's too much burning.
Too much burns. Just play Shauna 7 head. And then, we're talking about the consistency pieces, and this card is part of that main focus, unless you just can't hit, which is unfortunate. But this card profile can be called a Kome, which is typically on play. But this card, when this goes from waiting room, from the stage, you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck. If you do, and there's a yellow climax, you can add the yellow climax to your hand, discarding putting the rest to grave, and then discarding a card. So when we talk about consistency in your level 1 and your level 3, this card is really good. It's also free mill Free mill should never be like scoffed at, just because you are salvaging at 1, and then the added bonus if you do get the climax that you need, aces. The other effect is you can reveal a copy of itself to pump 2k power and 1 soul. Costless 2 soul attackers are very good. I mean, even cost 1, which we'll see a really busted card later on, are very good. Usually you have to pay 2 stock for that. So this card being able to pump itself 1 soul is just an added bonus.
No, this card is really good. It's definitely beats me up at 0, and it makes consistency like very good, mostly if you're playing 8 choice.
I mean, even the 4 choice.
Yeah, you're mostly always hitting a yellow climax, and it's free mill.
Yeah, can't go wrong with free mill, right?
No, you need to learn your lesson.
My lesson of milling a million times and all my climaxes on the bottom of my deck, can't get them.
This is as we said earlier, there's really good events in it, and I think this card is a very good event. Your opponent chooses 2 climaxes in their waiting room and then returns all of the cards to their deck and shuffles. You choose one of your characters and he gains 5k.
It's what we call a Fumio effect.
Yeah, it's just...
So if your opponent's really compressed, just a bunch of climaxes in their deck, whole bunch of damage not in the deck, you play this and you just completely mess up their compression. You usually want to see this with a stock swap, which we didn't get in the set, which is fine. I think they've learned their lesson not to print those 2 together. But
Konosuba.
Yeah. So, and then pumping 5k will help out some of the other events and stuff you're trying to do as well.
It gets pretty. I mean, plus 5k, you're getting through anything. Mostly at level 3.
Pretty much. But this is at least a one of. You do have an event tutor, which we'll get into. So you can get away with just playing 1 copy of this if you're in yellow, but it's highly recommended if you ever play those compression decks that you definitely want this. Moving into red, this is a early play I. If you have 4 or more music characters, it gets neg 1 level in hand. Busted, easy peasy. During your turn, it gains plus 2k power, which is like the Aqua early play, which is another really good early play. And then it also has the on play, you can discard a card to heal the stock. All of these are just really good effects. This profile is probably the number 1 early play you want in your set.
It's just so consistent, mostly this one.
Yeah, 11k on attack, heal the stock, easy condition. Like, you can't ask for anything more. Like, this is the best early play in the set. If you're in red, you want to be playing it. Just hands down. Moving into the next card is the finisher of choice.
It's the best finisher. I mean, it's on a standby, which I hold a grudge towards, because standby is I hate it. So if all your characters are music, which it 100% of the time is, it gets plus 2k, so it's an 11k. When it comes to heal 1, the combo is pay 2, ditch 1 at the beginning of the encore step. If the standby climax is in your is on the field and you have 6 or less cards in hand, which is just a weird.
It's just stapling conditions.
Yeah, it's just a weird staple. Burn 2. What's really cool is that you can actually do 4 of this, because you can have it in the back row.
Yeah, it's really gross.
So you could, if for somehow you have 3 out in the front row, you standby out the last one, you burn 2, burn 2, burn 2, burn 2. Which is just,
Typically what I found is you'll have like 2 of this, and then like you'll standby out the third one, and then you'll get all 3 burns. The hardest part is getting the standby. We talked in the beginning about some effects not being in this set that most modern sets that have been released in the last like 2 months have all had. Climax Swapper doesn't exist.
Which hurts.
Really sad. I was playing Choice Standby as my first build. I thought that was going to be like the strongest build. And what I found was I could not get the standby in my hand. I'd have the Setsunas, no problem. Couldn't get the standby, couldn't close out games. So that was part of my main issue with this as a finisher. However, if we get more sets, I'm sure we will, it's Bushiroad product, this I don't think will be very easily as the card to play on the top end. Like you put these down for, you have like 7 stock, you get 2 of them off. Like, even if you only have 1 in hand, you standby out the other one, you get 2 off. It's just because it's at the encore step. As long as these don't get removed from like memory counters, they're gonna go off. Like, reverse them, whatever, doesn't matter. Beginning of encore step, and it heals. Can't go wrong.
That was a good card.
Just gotta have the standby. Yeah. Otherwise, it
doesn't burn.
Seems like just a healer. Big old 11k vanilla healer. The next card here. There is an accelerate deck that can be built. I did build it. Super meme 8 standby banana nonsense where I use accelerate as my level 1 advantage, and then this card helps with that whole engine. It's a global 500. And when you accelerate, you can pay 1 if you have 4 or more cards in your clock. If you do, you can heal 1. So there's a counter that you accelerate and then look at top 4, choose a music character, add it to hand, and then pump an additional 1k, so it's a 2k counter. Where you just accelerate and then heal it off, look at top 4. Basically paying for your Maguro combo is how it feels. But that's... you're sitting on 1/1s and 2/2s because you're 8 standby. So the 2k counter just is going to get used anyway. And then this card also gives a little extra power because whenever you trigger a climax, you give an additional 1k.
And it beats.
You like the 8 standby deck, don't you?
The 1/1s are very weird, and then I just get beat by it because every turn, 0, it's... ditch this 1/1, play this thing in the back row, stand by. Now I'm sitting here with this counter waiting for you to die.
The 1/1s, which we don't highlight because they're just kind of... they're not really typical in this set, but they're not a card profile that we really think want to be highlighted. But they're 4500s with, if you have another character, get 1500, so it's a 6k. So they're smaller than the typical 7500 1/1s. However... if you have that other music character, they have hand encore, and they have double trigger. And they also have an effect that says whenever you trigger a card with a soul trigger icon, gain 1k cross turn. So even though they're 6ks, they can be 8ks if you trigger 2 soul trigger icons. And then, this card, if you hit any of the standbys, will just pump it, and then the standbys put out a 2/2, and then your board is just gigantic. It's been a really fun deck. I don't know, if accelerate can be considered like a really good mechanic to be using, particularly in this day and age. But this card, I think, gives it the ability to actually be run in a deck where punching yourself doesn't feel quite as bad. And then, being able to then sit on big guys and not having to clock yourself, to get the other cards in your hand is just really good.
So now, I hate this card. I know exactly. I'm having flashbacks. When this card is perform the following action twice, choose one of your music characters, and they gain +1 soul on their turn. So they are just making sure you get damaged no matter what. And then when you reverse, if you have 2 or more music characters, if the opponent's level 3, you can reverse it. It's a level 3 bomb, and it just pumps whatever you want, +2 soul. And it makes me so mad sometimes. Because I have such big level 3s, and I'm sitting here like, he won't get through me. And then he just plays this little thing, and it just kills me.
I don't even play it. Just stand by it out.
Yeah, I mean, you could stand by this out, and it just feels so good. I mean, this card is a great card if you're playing standby. Even in red, I think you should just play one of.
I think if you're playing any sort of standby, particularly the top end Setsuna, you play this so you can pump soul if you need to. Being able to make your 1 soul attackers 2 soul for free on attack with this, really good. And my really fun thing to do is trigger a standby at level 2, standby this out. They have to kill it somehow. It's 8,500. I'm gonna have counters in my hand. So they have to like basically stick a level 3 and sacrifice it to this card that I basically put out for free. So this card I just wanted to highlight it for those little fun things to do with it. I don't think it's like a phenomenal card, but being able to do that sort of like combat trick stuff really makes it look at when you're building your deck. So now we've gotten into red events. We have 2 red events we wanted to highlight that we've seen being played in a lot of decks. This is the event that I've chosen as the one. The one after this is what everyone else seems to be playing. But I like killing people on their turn. So that's probably why I gravitated to this counter. What it does is if you have 2 or fewer music characters, you can't play it. But if you do and you play it, you choose one of your music characters, give it 1500 power and the ability on reverse burn 2. You can play this during your main phase, play it during the counter step, and then randomly kill somebody. It's really fun when that happens. My favorite.
It's really good. It burns. I mean, you'll think that you're getting through, and then you're like, oh, I just ate 2, and then you just like it. Like if you're at like 3-4 trying to finish the game 3-5, it could actually matter. You stop your level 3, and then you eat 2.
I mean, like you said, there's an event tutor in this set that if you've got one of these in hand, tutor up the next one, pump them onto one character, swing in, hit them for like 2 or 3, then burn 2, then you have 2 more 2 soul attacks. That's a lot of damage. And then they sit at 3-6 because they were at 3-0, and you're like, okay, cool. But just having this option to potentially close out game with a non-climax finishing option is pretty good. And that's why I've chosen this one, but what everyone else is playing is this 3-3 event. So I like the other one because it only cost me 2 stock. This one costs 3. They do kind of have a similar thing where you need to have a music character in play. This one is not a counter, so you can't play it on the opponent's turn. You can only play it during your main phase. This one chooses a character, gives it 1k power compared to 15. And then at the beginning of the encore step, if the character across from this is reversed or it's an empty slot, you burn 1 twice. Some people think that the burn 1 is just better than a burn 2 because it's a smaller instance of damage, so you're more likely to get things through. But my thought process is the 1 less stock, the ability to do it during the counter step, save a character, burn 2, makes the other one better. I don't know. What do you think?
It's like you can snipe it out, but like, I mean, I think being able to do it on the opponent's turn is a little better. This stock, I mean, this is also a 3-3 event, which I still like the 2-2. I think they're both reasonable and you could play both of them. But I'm more towards the 2-2 because I think burn 1, you could snipe it out and then stick an extra damage. But in the end, I don't know. It's like, it's mostly on your opinion. It's also like how compressed they are, or if you're just trying to get through. They both have their like spots to shine. It's just like how you use them.
Yeah, I guess I like flexibility, and I think that being able to counter, save a character, get the burn 2 off. Particularly, you can do it at level 2. Like, sure, the burn 2 might not be super good at level 2, but if you save a character, get the burn 2 off, then go into your level 3. Like, I'm playing the counter event in my Musashi deck. So it's like, swing of the Musashi, they cancel, burn, restand, swing in, then, they've reversed, probably on the first. So that would be swing in, cancel, Musashi burn, reverse, burn 2, restand, swing in again. Like, eventually there's just so many instances of damage that the opponent is just never going to cancel. The Musashi finisher is pay 1, so the 2 stock is easy. So, I mean, I guess that there is a argument that the burn 1 on the Musashi is better, because if they cancel one of the burn 1s and if they haven't canceled either attack, potentially, it's better.
Yeah, I can see both. It's just, it's really all dependent on the player. I think both are good. I think it's like how you play them. makes them. Don't be afraid to play this card. You can definitely play it. It's just like if you want to be able to play stuff on like the opponent's turn, you're getting that advantage versus just burn 2 instead of just burn 1.
Yep. Never be afraid to try cards out, and if they don't work, switch them out. So that's something we always would like to advocate for. Even though we're doing this series to try to highlight the what we think is the most good.
Yeah, the best cards of the set.
English. Never be afraid to try things out because everyone's got different play styles and everyone, likes things to play a different way. So, we're going to move on into blue here.
This is the best card in the set by far. I think this card is really good.
You don't like your 3/2 Kanata more?
Okay, maybe not. All right, I have a love-hate with. I don't know how to feel. So at the beginning of your climax phase, you get the until the end of your opponent's turn, you get to choose one of the following 2 actions. It becomes a runner or a looter, which runner can run in any spot, and looter is you draw a card to ditch a card whenever you reverse something. This card is just very versatile. I mean, a runner is great, but sometimes a runner's not that good.
Well, if you tri-field, kept all your lanes, give it the loot effect, get a reverse. Opponent can't get over 2/5 possibly. Get a second loot. I mean, dig for that climax. The one thing with this card, though, is you have to remember is you can't play events or backups if it's on the board. So you have to be really conscious in the late game that if this is on board, you may not be able to use your 2/2 events, your 3/3 events, your anti-damage counter, which we'll get into, or your 2K counters. So that's just something you really have to be conscious of. But I think that the versatility of this card is top notch. Nothing better than a Kaguya player playing their 2K clean cut runner, and you're just like, oh, how about this 2/5
loot runner?
Yeah, and then they hit a climax and you kill it. So busted. This card is possibly the strongest 0. I'd say either this or the Kome are probably the 2 strongest 0s in this set, depending on what you're doing.
100%.
Yeah, so I think this is almost an instant 4 of. Like I said, if you're doing a lot of events, you may not want to play it, but typically, as long as you're aware of this card in the late game, I think you're fine. I play like 3 copies of it because of the downside in my late game, but that's my personal preference. You can see that deck description below. The 8 choice one is one where I'm playing 3 because of what I'm doing. So, yeah, this is really strong 0 in our opinion. This next card here, Karin, is the Event Tutor. So it has an effect that says that you can use markers underneath this in place of stock when you're paying for events. So on play, you can pay 1, discard a card. I thought this was music character, and then I actually looked at it. I was like, oh, it's just straight up discard a card. I'm like, that's even better than I thought because you can discard climaxes. It then tutors for an event, shuffle your deck, and then put the top 2 cards of your deck underneath as face-up markers that can then be used to pay for your event. So you pay 1 stock, discard a card, tutor your 2/2 event, and play that for free.
This card is... I mean, I would splash blue for this card. I mean, you play pretty good amount of blues, for 0. So you can level one of them. Mostly if you're playing the...
just a runner.
Yeah.
Just level the runner at
the search
3.
Ricky. If you really need a blue, you can get one out of your waiting room.
Yeah, exactly. Just pop that. It also has a climax combo on a gate where if the battle opponent becomes reversed, send the clock for free.
I think...
Busted.
I think if you're looking for consistency, I think this card's really consistent. So if you get over them, the dream is you play the gate, you search up the burn 1, give plus 5k, or
decompress them.
Decompress them. Clock
burn
hit.
2, burn 2.
Burn 2, clock hit.
Oh, that's really gross. The problem is this card is just 11k, so you kind of need to pump the power to get that reverse. So the one deck I haven't built to test because I think Riker here wants to try it is a gate finisher deck. He wants to go book gate
Listen, I'll explain the book in a little bit why.
Yeah, we'll do that at the end. And then I don't think I put the book in the slideshow guy
Okay,
because I hate that.
If you need the most beautiful card you've ever seen, go look up the SR of the level 1 book and you'll be like, wow, Wrecker's so right. And I'm like, I know. I will, before this video comes out, I will finish the deck list, so it will be in the description for the book gate. It's kind of a meme, but I really like.
I think it's fine.
I like the blue cards
like
in this set. The blue cards in this set, I just like we'll talk about the off finisher.
Here you go. Here's your off finisher. Go ahead and talk about
this card. It heals, and then it stitch a music character, and then it does the following 2 actions where it burns 1, then burns 3. I mean,
well, you can pick the order. So
yeah,
you can burn 3, burn 1.
I think this card, like, I would have seen this on a gate. Like, I would have seen this on a combo. I think this card is.
So this card though doesn't attack. So her flavor is that she's always asleep. So if she's standing, you just rest her. She's going to sleep, and then she does the effect. So there's a couple of Kanta cards that have like that flavor. Like her level 0 is the same thing. If it's standing at the beginning of the Encore step, rest it, reveal top of deck, and then burn based on number of soul triggers +1.
I think this card is actually really good. I mean, if you're looking for a budget deck, just going in the gate and then playing this. I mean, you have burn, you have clock kick, you have good ways to find events. I think this card is really good. I mean, I think this card is definitely one that you should watch out for.
Yeah. There's definitely a Love Live Niji deck that you can build that's very budget. There's a level 1 Brainstorm that I think is probably the second best Brainstorm after the IMU Salvage Brainstorm. It's like an uncommon or a common.
Don't be afraid to play level 1 Brainstorms.
Yeah. Like, if you play the book gate deck, I think you can probably build it for under $70.
Which I will be trying to budget to show that, like, how some sets have the versatile, like Slime. Their Slime budget decks are insane.
Yeah. Like, that's a series we've looked at doing, but we'll save that for another video since we're doing a set review here. But, yeah, like, I want to try to build something with this card because I think it's really a really interesting, flavorful design space. So maybe if I ever get around to building the choice gate, because that's the route I want to go. Because I really dislike Obero bounce combo, and that's what the book combo is. This card's definitely going in there for the heals. I actually may splice this into my Musashi deck because I don't have anything except the early play heals in there, as you can see in the link below. But yeah, I think that this is a very interesting card. The next card is another Karin. This is one of the other ways that I mentioned that is a way to find events. On play, that gains 2k, so it's 6k beating into the opponent. And when the battle opponent of this becomes reversed, you can discard a music card to look at up to the top 4 cards of your stock. That's right. Look at the top 4 cards of your stock. Grab a card, add it to hand, put the rest of the cards you were looking at back into your stock, and then shuffle your stock. You can grab events. You can grab climaxes.
This card is really funny. I think it's very unique. The only issue I have with it is if you're looking for a certain card and you just triggered a gate, you're shuffling that gate anywhere in that stock.
Unless you're grabbing the gate.
Yeah, that's true. It adds consistency. I think this card is really fun to play with. I would definitely play it. I think it's just a really funny card. That's the only downside I ever see of this card is if there's 2 in there, you can only grab 1. That 1 is somewhere in there that you'll never know.
Yeah, I was playing this in one of my decks. I ended up taking it out because I had to play a PR to make my level 1 combo more consistent. But I think it's a very interesting design space where you're basically paying 1, discarding a music character to grab anything out of your stock. Usually this is a pay 1, discard a character, look at 4 from top of deck. But using this card, you've already known what you've triggered. So you can decline the effect and just beat over something, or you've triggered something on a previous attack, and then you just grab it. So I think that this is something to definitely be thought of when you're designing a deck. Potentially not played, like I ended up dropping it myself, but it could also be an option if you don't have like the box topper promos, because they are kind of expensive, the ones that would see play.
One of them is way too much.
$30, and I think the one that I dropped this for, the give power on attack, I think is sitting at like 15 or something. So next card, we're going to talk about another busted card.
This is a early play killer with hand encore, but it's a 2-soul. So it beats, and it you're mostly swinging into it, and most of the time they're just 1-souls. But this is actually a 2-1. That's a 2-soul beater. That's gonna kill their level 3. It bottom decks it. I think this card is great. I love this card. I was freaking out when I saw it. So every time a set comes out, Ben and I get on Discord. We just sit around. We go through every card on the set and talk about, and we pick out the ones we want to talk about. And I'm very impatient, so I just keep looking through all the decks. And so I find this card. And I'm like, this card's busted. And he goes, oh yeah, pretty good card. And I was like, this is insane. This is the best early play killer. You should just play it. It's a 2-1 beater. I think this card is great.
I think you're going to, if you're in blue, you're playing it. Paying 1 stock for 2-soul attacker, just good. We talked about with the Kasumi, 0 cost 2-soul attacker, very good. I don't know how relevant the hand encore is.
If you need a free blocker,
right? So it's like if you somehow, stand by this out and then need to hand encore it, I guess is like where that's relevant. But usually you're playing it. Then, your opponent's got an early play that they had to pay 2 stock for that has 2 soul. You paid 1 stock. You send it right to the bottom of their deck. They're never going to see it again because what's a searching brainstorm these days? And then, yeah, you got your value. And they lost theirs for, more stock than... Because you've already refunded it with the attack.
This card's great.
So I definitely think that this card... I don't know if it's as, bonkers as everyone was making it out to be, but I do think it is very, very good because of the 2-soul and because of bottom decks. I love removing things where opponents can't just immediately encore or grab them. Going to clock, going to bottom of deck, always goes a top notch, in my opinion. The next event is another event.
We wanted to make sure we got all color, every color in the set events.
Well, I feel like they gave every color a really good event.
Yeah, they really did pretty well with events in the set, and I think events are becoming more and more popular.
I think it depends on the set. I think that this set has events for flavor because of what happens in the anime. They're going to different events, doing things to get better. So, I think that's why there's more events here than we typically have been seeing lately. And the fact you can tutor for them is what makes it really good. Now, this one, not my favorite event because of a certain condition on it, but you can play it without color requirement. So, if you're not playing blue, you can just play this, which I think is moderately bonkers, but it's restricted to the fact you have to have 5 or more music characters on board. But I might splash this. I forgot this didn't have color requirement when I was translating, and I was like, yo, I can put this in my 8 standby deck.
It's not a bad card. I mean, the fact that you can play it as any color really...
makes it versatile.
Yeah.
What this card actually does, which I guess we should say, is it's a money counter. So, pay 3 stock, choose one of the characters in battle, and it gains, this cannot deal damage to players. And then you choose one of your characters and give it 1k power. So, not only could you potentially pump your standby target bigger, the opponent can't deal damage to you. And you can play it without blue. I think I might have to somehow look at my 8 standby deck and see if I can fit this in. Because I really did forget about that color when I was building.
It stops combos, too.
I mean, you can still get reversed. But...
yeah.
If you play this event, they can't reverse you. So yeah, this will stop your combo real easy.
You could just storm out events on in blue.
So there is a line of play for a deck that I haven't really explored, where you have a 2/1 bodyguard. You can play the anti-damage and this with the 2/1 bodyguard, and the 2/1 bodyguard cannot be reversed, which means that every attack the opponent does has to hit the bodyguard. That can't be reversed.
I like it.
Yeah. So this event, it's a 3-2, so you can't do it at 2 when you have access to the bodyguard, which kind of is unfortunate. But this is a counter that says choose 2 of your characters, and they gain the following ability for the turn. They cannot be reversed. You just stick it right on the bodyguard, can't be reversed, and then, you know, if your opponent does somehow get over it, like, I haven't really delved into this deck, but it's definitely a line of play. And when Riker tries to reverse me, I'm just going to laugh at him. Mm-hmm. So that's how we're going to do that. But definitely an interesting deck build to look at for those that are looking to build different Niji decks. There's a whole different lot of things you can do, which I think is really fun and why I really enjoy buying into Weiss sometimes. Last card we're going to talk about before we kind of go into a little bit of like our decks and what we're doing. This box topper PR, which is $30. And I thought that was absolutely wild.
It's very expensive for...
I put this in 8 standby, though, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's worth it.
It's really
this card, if you're going to play 8 standby, you may have to fish out a little extra coin to put this in, because it's worth it.
Yeah, on play from hand, you can mill 2 cards, so you fill in your graveyard. If you hit a climax, you can discard a card, and then salvage. So you discard, 1/1, a 2/2, grab whatever you need, some playable. Pay 1, discard 1, salvage, give 1k somewhere. Like, both of these are very good effects. Stapled onto the same card, I think, has happened once or twice before. And, like I said, I put this right in the 8 standby to when I was, like, fiddling with my list, and it did a lot of work being able to put my 1/1s right where I want them to be, my graveyard. So, just wanted to highlight this. I mentioned in the Salt Lily that we don't typically highlight box toppers because not everyone has access to them, but when there's a card that plays a certain way, I do want to highlight it. I didn't add the Mifune box topper PR that pumps power for soul of a character. That's a little bit more of a vanilla effect, but that card is also very good. But yeah, so Niji's been a lot of fun. Going into a little bit of a wrap up here, because this video's gone on fairly longer than we try to do these. We try to keep them around 30 minutes for you guys. But Niji's been a lot of fun. I'm glad you found a deck that you like, the little memes.
I've never really been like a big fan of Love Live, but I definitely enjoy this set. I think this set is different. They're going a different way with it, and I just enjoyed it. The set doesn't have like some zeros that you want, like we talked about. It doesn't have a clean cut, it doesn't have a climax swapper, but I think it makes up with unique effects, with all the events that are really cool. I mean, I've never seen counter that on reverse burn 2, or the burn 1 burn 1 search an event out of your search an event out of your deck that you get to play
basically for free.
Yeah,
like usually those type of tutors are on play, discard a card, search an event. Or, on play, search an event, then discard a card to add it to hand from underneath as a marker. That kind of stuff is like the typical ones. This one makes it free. Which I'm assuming is because you're paying the stock and discarding a specific thing, which is the music character. No, it's a discard a card. I forgot. I was translating that.
It's discards a card. It's so good.
So it's
best card.
The design space of this set has been really fun. I've been play testing and bouncing ideas off a kid, Patrick. Shout out to Patrick if you're listening. We've been building a lot of things. You can find some of the decks that probably like skeletons on my page if you go into those deck lists below. But yeah, this set's been a lot of fun. Definitely, if you like Love Live, it's worth picking up. If you want a super powerful deck, though, I would be a little cautious because I don't think it's been quite solved yet, and I think it is missing some of those staple cards that have been coming out lately.
What? I think we thought the 3 meta decks were Choice Standby, Choice, and
Choice Gate is the other one. So Choice Gate is the one I'm hearing a lot of players have gone to, which is the only one I haven't tested.
It's super consistent.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming that's why everyone's on it, but I haven't tested it, so I don't know. My out of my sample size of like 4 games with the 8 choice seems to be the most consistent and powerful. And 8 standby is also fairly good. However, that one requires a lot of thought process as you play, and isn't going to be as straightforward or powerful as the other 2 or other 3 that we've listed. So 8 standby would probably be like the 4th tier, and just as long as you're aware that it's a different type of play style and less
it's a little more thinky.
Yeah, because it's a little like Milky Holmes or like doing all that sort of combat.
Yeah, Love is War, where you're playing around a backup,
accelerating, flicking cards off top of your deck, hoping you don't hit the climax. You do hit the climax. That's how my life is. And,
there's definitely ways. I mean, there's a level 1 standby where I don't think it's.
I don't think the IMO standby is the play.
No, I think you play 2 level 3 standbys. One you can just keep beating with. The other one's the burn 2 that you can do. I mean, there's so many. The standby is definitely good in this set. The 1/1 is a little smaller than usual, but
as long as you don't get clock kicked or memory kicked, you're fine with that. Beware the DeCapo matchup. That I've been playing a lot of DeCapo matchups, and those have been pretty rough. But DeCapo is one of the best decks in the meta, so I mean that's to be expected.
We try to let the decks face like the top meta decks before we say something. Like we have Psychono,
DeCapo. We got Dowls running around everywhere.
Still.
Yeah. So we got a bunch of Kagi at different lists as well.
Yeah.
Around. So Kagi is pretty good. Definitely watch out for that one. But yeah, we're gonna wrap the video here though. We do want to give a shout out to Reality A. They're our local game store. You can find them below in the description. They do take pre-orders, cases, boxes. Some singles are available. Definitely be checking out Data Bullet, which should be out by the time this video goes live.
Fun set. Excited.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I already got a deck already built in my head, so that video will be coming probably a week or so after Data Bullet comes out. And yeah, thank everyone for once again tuning in. Hopefully we haven't bored you with this longer than usual video. And hit that like button, subscription if you haven't done so. Tell your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.